This is a production of the AJ Podcast Network.
Pushing and pulling, I want you, but you wanna leave. I hate you, I love you, you love me, yeah, you gotta be free. If I'm your cage, leave. But if you stay with me, eventually we'll find happy.
Here we go again, people, with another episode of the Passage Home podcast starring the Dr. Stanley Russian. Now listen, people, no more reading off a whole bunch of links. You can reach us at one link, one website, but we have all of our platforms on this link. Go to www.linktree.com/Passage Home podcast. Again, that's www.linktree.com/Passage Home podcast. And that's link, LINK, tree, TREE. Now, with no further ado, Dr. Stanley Russian, how are we doing today?
Amazing.
Amazing.
But and I can only get to that level by being blessed by the Most High.
Always.
Yes. Today we're bringing back Lady D.
Yes.
Been blessed to have her do a little series because she exemplifies my whole podcast, and she reflects everything in a higher order that I'm trying to get for the people that are listening to elevate to with on a global level. 20 years ago, my attorney and I started a STEM program where the name of that was Entreprotect. And it was basically saying that we wanted to help kids become entrepreneurs in technology by the year 2000. And we were right on point then, because now right now, if you can't operate a computer at home, you can't even go to school, or go to work for a lot of people, or even get a coronavirus shot. And so we started, educating, but in the very near future, if you can't code, you still gonna be out the picture for surviving in the future, because it's gonna cut you down. One of the things they're doing in the state of Virginia right now is that they're starting kids coding in kindergarten.
Wow.
Yeah, but the Chinese have been doing it for a while. The Vietnamese, the Koreans. I taught school for 39 years, and I saw Chinese kids that came in to my class. They had their calculus already. So they were prepared. They had other issues, but they had that they were front loaded for technology. So without further ado, I want to bring Lady D back in. I want to first ask her how is music.
Well, the pup and I are just fine. She's right here with me. She gets excited when she hears both of you talking.
Yeah, but
so I would like to say, get ready, everybody, to all our listeners, to exude joy, and we're all going to find the happy together.
Right, absolutely. And so I want, speaking of STEM, You were speaking to me earlier this week and even today about the STEM programs, and we're going to bring that home for what that means to us here and globally, and specifically in Africa.
Absolutely. So I hope everybody's ready to take this journey on our podcast on the way home. The way that the diaspora affects itself in Africa, in the continent, as well as here in the United States, in the Caribbean, and the rest of the world. So currently in our STEM program, we're united countries as well as states here to have a new directive of STEM where we're collectively learning from people here and abroad. As I said, wherever she is, you are. So in that
Hmm.
STEM, Dr. Stan wanted me to touch on agriculture. So one of the things, oddly enough, is that a great deal of us started in agriculture, migrated to large cities, and then have been out of touch with our agricultural roots for generations and decades now. And it seems as if because of the pandemic, everyone's trying to migrate back to agriculture. And that is the irony of it all. So, one of the things that I absolutely participated in when I was attending school was FFA, which is Future Farmers of America. Future Farmers of America is a program, or 4-H, that was offered to rural children that dealt with agricultural issues on a daily basis because we lived on farms and we lived in farm communities where even if you didn't live on a farm, you absolutely participated in horticulture and that implemented on the farm. So you could have a job or employment on the farm or in stands that distributed produce or a farmer's market, or you might work in one of the livestock distribution units, or you would work in a produce distribution unit. So, to attach our urban children to agriculture, we need to actually open up chapters of Future Farmers of America inside of our STEM program and the diaspora. So, this would absolutely be able to let both children on both sides of the pond, as everyone says, talk about and address issues that encompass agriculture. So, urban children can start smaller units and gestations of plants, and that would add to the science, the technology, and the engineering and math for STEM, because STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and math. So, in our STEM program, we tried to show how STEM relates to your everyday life. Because if you talk to the average child, they hate science, technology, engineering, and math, or very few
Right,
like it. But if you
right,
tell them, you tell them how frequency is about music, and if you want to become a music producer or sing, you should understand what sound waves and frequency are and how they affect you. So
wow,
in our program, we tried to basically make sure that the kids know exactly how those four topics relate to all of life.
right,
You just don't get out of school and say, I'm not going to do science anymore. But the next morning for breakfast, you're going to make some pancakes.
right.
So you're going to absolutely make a salute and you're going to mix items up. That's all science. Culinary arts is science. It's measures,
Mm.
it's weights. So what we do is we let the kids know how to identify or find the science. So we give them a topic and let them find the science, the technology, the engineering, and math, and everything.
Hmm. Well,
So
so
one,
can I hold you for a second? I heard
yes, go
you
right ahead.
mention salute.
Hmm. Oh,
Uh,
I see where we're going with this.
yeah.
when you
Uh,
when heat
were
is
you
at
saying salad?
no, I was saying salute as in when you put a dry substance into a liquid, and the liquid
Okay. Yeah.
absorbs the substance. So, for instance, if you're going to make iced tea, like when you put iced tea, when you put sugar in that iced tea with the ice and the tea and the water, the sugar will go to the bottom of the glass, right? And it sits there,
Right.
and you keep staring and
Right.
staring and staring, and it doesn't absorb,
Right.
right? And the reason
Mm-hmm.
why is because the molecules are cold, and so
Right.
they don't absorb. But if you heat it up like hot tea,
Right.
it breaks it down, and it's absorbed by the liquid
Right.
because that molecule expands with the heat.
Right.
So, thank you, Dr. Stan, for
Right.
letting
Right.
me know,
Right. Well,
letting me
I
let
wish
our
I could say
audience know.
I wish I could say I knew that, but I didn't. I
What?
actually
Wow.
didn't know what it meant. But what I was thinking was something else. I thought salad was actually because you speak French. I thought salute was a salad, and that that yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking something like that too, like French or something like that.
No,
Yeah.
I mean
Because my
soluble. That
well,
the ability
there
to
you go. There
absorb.
now I got that. You know,
So-
because my mentor a lot of times we're talking and he said trumpeter. He said trumpeter. I said, are you trying to say entrepreneur? He said, and so he's but that is a term trumpeter and stuff. He was just using it on a higher level. And so I just want to keep it real for the audience out there. So now, once we start stemming the kids up, those are things that really interested me when I was young because as we all went to private school, I was trained by Jesuits, and the Jesuits specialize in education. And so when we came in, we came straight out the hood. And so they had to break a lot of bad habits and speech, etiquette, different things that, which I'm really blessed that I learned. They hated me. They tried to suspend me for all kinds of reasons back in the day, but I still picked up enough that took me through life because it gave me the basic elements, of things. I didn't pass the class, but I heard them. I didn't pass anything but gym and religion in my sophomore year, and they give you that. But when I was in math class, when they talked about Pythagorean's theorem on one day, the next day he marched us all out and we measured the shadow on the building to determine how tall I wound up using that formula for at least 30 years because I went into construction. And when I found out the math controls everything, I mean, the Egyptians used Pythagorean's theorem before Pythagoras did, and they were measuring land that flooded in the Nile by using that formula. And how to form a right angle. And when I was sitting in my classroom and I taught construction, I would tell them, I said, everything around you is built on that formula, from how the wall meets the floor, how the right angles in a brick, the right angles in a door, the right angles in a window, how your desk sits on the floor and forms a perpendicular and stuff. And they were amazed at that, just that one theorem. And so it became something that, like I say, propelled me through life. Even though I failed that class, I was able when I worked in Sears Tower, and we would have a whole floor, the 64th floor, and we had to put up walls and stuff. And when I was the only person on the crew that knew how to triangulate and lay out for the walls to go up because I understood that theorem. So it was beneficial all throughout life. And so when I was in high school, I don't want to prattle on, but when I was in high school, when the teacher said that you need calculus if you're going to dig a hole in the ground to determine how much air you're going to need, how to keep it from caving in on you while you take a resource out every day. He said, and there are people out there that don't want you to understand that. And so that just piqued my interest even more, because they, where a lot of people formulate their college around staying as far away from math as possible. Yeah.
And that's what it sounds like. It sounds like if a person can succeed in science, technology, engineering, and math, he can concede. He will succeed without a shadow of a doubt.
Right.
You just succeed in that.
Right. And which brings us to what we're talking about: being able to thrive anywhere in the world and take care of your family. With these things. When I studied architectural engineering, they said that the architect was the master of the know-how. They knew how that building would look after it's constructed, from which angles people would see it, and what they see staring back at them as a piece of art. And so, but that's amazing to have that type of foresight before something exists, and so, but math does all that. And
Absolutely. And that's why it's so important for our podcast to activate all the individuals out there that want to make a change in their community. And we saw that participation this year with so many inclusive families in the streets campaigning for change. Well, that change starts right now. So everybody who wants to open up a chapter of the STEM, reach out to our show, contact us. We'll make sure that you get the materials in your area to begin to start the STEM process. Because when we step together, it is the most important power that you could possibly have, is the power of yourself, because change starts within.
Yeah, so you'll be well armed with that, because like I say, you become the master of the know-how. You one thing that I heard out of the movie, in the movie Hidden Figures, the line that stood out to me, it was so much of my life was in that movie, because I followed those principles, that when you avail yourself of the math and science, you make yourself necessary for everybody else. And so at that point, it doesn't matter what color you are and things, because you are an essential figure. The little things that jumped out when the astronaut said, "I'm not getting on this bird unless she checks out these figures and lets me know that it's okay." That's power. Power is the ability to make somebody or something do something that it don't want to do.
And so then now we're going to take the power of this knowledge and place it into all of these children's baby bottles. See, because that's what we're missing. And that's why the STEM helps us get on the same foot, because all of that information that we were given that was incorrect or was propaganda, or what we have to do now is set a new pace of new information that's going in, that's not condemning the past, but embracing the strength of the future of all of us, because we can steer this together where we want to go or where we should be. And right now, as fast as we can train our country to assimilate and start to give the children a firm foundation based on science, technology, engineering, and math. If we don't have that, we're going to become someone else's servant.
Right.
Mm.
And they're not going to like us as much as we don't like each other sometimes. They're going to like us even less.
Right.
So this is the moment in time where America, we have to come together here and embrace all of the knowledge from the continent to here and know exactly this is the direction we should be on. So let's go here. And what's the best vehicle to travel there?
Right.
And the best way to get there, as far as I'm concerned, is all those youngsters at home. They represent the next 3 decades and everything. So whatever we saturate them with right now and whatever they can absorb, it has to come from us.
Right.
And so when you talk about right now, the trend is organic, what they need is organic information so they can bloom and grow.
Right.
And through our STEM program and this podcast, you can receive firsthand organic information.
Right. So what I'm getting from this, and what I want to say is that if you learn math, you can figure things out for yourself. Because if you've actually taught them how to fish, because math is nothing but thought put into numbers. And when you say you're afraid of math, you're saying you're afraid to learn how to figure things out.
Why do you feel like so many? Excuse me, Dr. Stan. I have a quick question.
Yeah.
But why are you speaking? Why do you feel like so many youth are afraid of those subjects like math and things like that? Like they lean.
Math is absolute. You know, when I had mentors that taught me how to make circular stairs. Everything in a circular stair has to fit into a puzzle, and you can't fake it. You know, you have to have certain measurements in certain places and tie it in a certain way, or else it can be very dangerous, because people are carrying a freezer up to a 3rd floor, and you got winders that turn around. Right there is a very vulnerable spot, because if you got 200-300-pound movers and a freezer full of food, you know, that math has to work, else somebody's gonna die. Because so and I had them check my math, and I've had guys that got to that part and they left and went to lunch, and to see if I would figure. If that word figure it out, how to put that together. And they came back, and I would have finished that, and I'd be up on the deck, and they called me back over there. But before they called me, you know how old men make those sounds, they grunt and stuff. He was sitting with a looking at everything I did, and he called me back over there, and he said, yeah, young blood. He said, you got this right. You know, but he wasn't there to hold my hand, because he know he couldn't be there in the future. And the good thing about a mentor, the best mentor always makes himself unnecessary. If you got to keep coming back to him, he hasn't done his job.
We know that. We absolutely knew that when it comes to you. But everyone out there that's listening is like, I can't be like Dr. Stan. Yes, you can. No. But I'm going to talk. I'm going to address it. I'm going to address it in what I think Brother Banks was talking about. Brother Banks, you're talking about how can math reach our youth today, correct?
Correct.
Right.
How can we make it appealing and exciting? Because the average kid comes home, and even in after school programs right now, because school wasn't physical for everybody in many parts of the country, it was still virtual. A lot of kids would say, as soon as their teacher went off, I'm done. And then they would go play a game, or they would go back to sleep. Mm-hmm. The point is that math has never been served to us in a buffet that we enjoyed.
True.
It did not have the staples on that banquet to feed us. So I have been working the last few decades with some prominent producers, and we're adding prominent music producers. Now, I'm going to ask you both a question. I've had little kids from like 5 to 18 and give them a mathematical equation of a college level. And they couldn't remember it or recite it, but I gave it to them in mnemonics, which is turning that equation into a song. And guess what? Everybody scored the same, from that 5-year-old to the 18-year-old. You want to know why? Because anyone can sing any of the latest hits, from the smallest child to the largest adult, right? So why haven't we ever did a curriculum based on mnemonics?
Smart.
Right.
It would be the fastest way for us to consume that information, and it would be fun. And I'll tell you, it had been done before. One of the mass distributions of it was during Dr. Stan's time with Schoolhouse Rock.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
since then, no one ever made it into general curriculum.
So it's like you have to like literally disguise the medicine. So, a lot of times kids don't want to take medicine straight up. That's why they put cherry flavor or they put grape flavor, but you're
And
really
that's why
giving
we
them the
blend
medicine in a way
vegetables.
that is attractive to
Yeah.
them.
Blend those vegetables and sneak them in the spaghetti sauce. Absolutely. This is
Wow.
what we're talking about. So what if we made education play? If we made education play, the goodness would be hidden in the stimulus. So why wouldn't we take the top music producers and marry our geeks to our sheiks, and all of a sudden now theory becomes fun.
And they'll listen too.
They'll listen
Right.
and they'll play. I've heard so many extreme songs while someone was jumping rope, or just a song that they're singing while they're walking or playing, but we could take information that's vital to them, like pi or any
Right.
other mnemonic theory, and give it to them. We could put physics in a song. And so
Right.
if we could absolutely do that, then how fast would we digest information? I believe we would absolutely activate those sections of our brain that would process information, i.e., children who can't read have iPads, and yet they can maneuver from everything in that iPad, and children are reading at a phenomenal rate, but they're also creating another sub language that's just letters. And so I always wonder if this sub language is going to move into mainstream culture.
Right.
And I mean, we hear it now in urban talk where everyone's like, okay, I'm going to DM you, right? But everything, there's kids out here that are having whole, full conversations. I remember in one of our stems, I asked a young man to type up something, and he typed up the whole entire paper in that code and handed it in. And we were like, you cannot hand this in for a job interview. But we need to understand, why are so many children communicating with each other like this? It's because they're given devices before they can actually read.
Right.
Wow.
And so thank you, Lady D. Cover everything that we wanted to about STEM so far. Hopefully we can get you back one more time, and we can get into agriculture, and we have a blank slate, but we have the intelligence to do all these things through STEM. And do you have? It will be on our, as Bax explained, it will be on our website and any web pages that pertain to this will be accessible there.
Definitely. And once again, that's going to be www.linktree.com/passage home podcast. So, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for listening. Lady D, thank you for having
Bax, Dr. Stan, Lady D. Thanks for coming on our show, Lady D. Excellent show. Always bring great stuff to the table. As Bax was saying, we have a brand new website. Linktree.com/Passage Home Podcast. Go to that website, click on your preference of a platform to listen to, such as Apple, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, all those great platforms that you could get Dr. Stan on. One-stop shopping. You could even get the direct link to purchase Bax's song, Caged, from iTunes. Lady D, thank you for coming on. We'll catch you, hopefully, our next episode of Passage Home Podcast. Have a good night.
But if you stay with me, eventually we'll find happy.
We got carried away, getting married in May. I don't know who you are.
This is a production of the AJ Podcast Network.